there, and that just paused on me right there. I got to refresh that. But don't worry about that. It's your boys. Fantasy Exec, JVTV, Big Bets. Got a lot going on, Johnny V. You know what I'm saying? We were talking coming into the segment about Survivor. We'll get into that. You know what I'm saying? We got more picks to make this week against the spread. Hope everybody's doing well. Get you some winners. Make you some money. Holidays are coming up, so these wagers become more important. Johnny V TV, we got a couple injuries we got to discuss and talk about. But first, I'd like to say, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, bro. I got a lot to think about these days, but how are you doing? That's the more important question. Corey Parson, I'm not seeing a lot of you. We're only doing once a week. We're doing 3 times a week. What's going on with you, brother?
Yeah, well, Johnny, I got some things going on right now. Unfortunate, Johnny. You know what I'm saying? That's keeping me my mind occupied, and I'm having to do more manual stuff. You know what I'm saying, to make sure that the rubber meets the road on this side, because I got a. What do you want to say? What can we say? Like a cocksucker?
You got some things.
I got a cocksucker I'm dealing with right now. Pause.
You know what I'm saying? The language on you.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm dealing with that, but you know, your boy still got plenty of love for you, and the people have plenty of love for this program right here. So we keep that going. You know what I'm saying? But Johnny, let's start with Deshaun Watson, done for the season. I don't really think it's that big of a deal as far as the Browns are concerned. He was starting to play better. But I think P.J. Walker, DTR, can do the job he was doing.
I mean, I'm a little surprised why P.J. Walker's taking the backseat to DTR. Walker, I felt like, was pretty serviceable. I mean, of course, the ceiling of the Cleveland Browns is capped. Fantasy-wise, it hurts us that Deshaun Watson's not there, especially for an Amari Cooper owner such as myself. But realistically, I think out of all the QB injuries, the Browns are probably set up the best.
I agree.
I mean, I'm not ready to write in Cleveland as a playoff ticket just yet, but I do think, you know, it's very reflective of the line. Like, we'll get into that, but when Deshaun Watson got ruled out, you know, the line only moved 2.5 points to the point where I was shocked. I thought Pittsburgh would be probably a 3.5, 4-point favorite going into this game, and they're still an underdog at the Browns with DTR starting quarterback. That just goes to show what the line.
Pittsburgh got a backup quarterback too. That's why. And I tell you what, the number to make the playoffs prior to the injury, minus $1.75. Last time I checked, minus $1.75. The number didn't change at all.
I'm a little surprised. I got to be honest. Here's why I'm surprised. We know Watson missing isn't as big of a deal as it sounds, but I'm a little surprised that the sports books think the same way based off what the value they have of a starting quarterback, especially coming off a huge win where Deshaun Watson was pretty good at Baltimore last week. So that gave them a good taste about Watson, and then you turn around and he's done for the year. I thought they would have put a little bit more emphasis on that, considering we're probably looking at P.J. Walker, DTR, or DRT, not able to complete that comeback. So that's where I'm a little confused that the books are that low on Watson, that Cleveland is still a home favorite to Pittsburgh.
I'm with the books. To be honest with you, I'm with the books. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I know he started to play better the past couple of weeks. And listen, I'm going to be fair to him. You know, he is beat up. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think where he's a game changer that moves the needle that much, the current quarterback that he has been so far this season. So I'll just leave it at that. Now, what does move the needle is the news we got today that Joe Burrow, your man Joey B, out for the rest of the season. This affects a lot of wagers, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl, AFC Championship. No Joe Burrow kind of means no more Cincinnati Bengals this year.
I might as well take a Zippo and light my Bengals Super Bowl ticket on fire, along with that Jamar Chase Offensive Player of the Year. Aside from that, this Thursday night football, it's bullshit. It's got to stop. We preach, or we hear the NFL preach about player safety. We know that's a crock. It's how can you reasonably expect these players coming off arguably the most physical sport in football on a Sunday to turn around and play another game on a Thursday? Joe Burrow was coming into this game with an injury. Now, whether Cincinnati properly declared that injury with Burrow on the injury list or not is an entirely separate issue. But the fact remains is 2 star players at one that on a team that had a real shot to make a deep run in the playoffs, they're out of it. Like Cincinnati's season, unless Jake Browning pulls off a miracle, basically, the Bengals, they're done. They're not even going to make the playoffs. And why? So we could have Thursday night football. Like, it's disgusting, dude. I'm tired of it. Like, I understand it's nice to have a little action on Thursday. You got nothing else going on before the weekend starts, and you want to be entertained. I get it. But the product itself has been putrid. But then you have these guys that have a higher risk of getting hurt. Like, yeah, that could have happened on a Sunday game for sure. But, if Joe Burrow happened on a Sunday, it's harder to say, well, we had 7 days to recover as opposed to 3. So I'm just not buying it. I think it's a bad product all around, but now we're having key players in the NFL, faces of the NFL getting hurt and missing extensive time or the rest of the season, which is going to ultimately impact the playoffs. And let me tell you something. The NFL is counting on Cincinnati to be in the playoffs because they know that's the one team that can give Kansas City a run for their money.
You're making a mistake there.
These playoff rating games, Corey.
No, you're making a mistake. This year, really since about week 3 of this season, we have been on a collision course between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. And that's where it was going anyway, and that's definitely where it's going now.
I don't know about that.
And this is the AFC Championship game that people have been waiting for.
I don't know about that. You can't say that for a fact. I would go as far as to say with this injury news, we don't know if the Buffalo Bills get it together.
Bills?
I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying we don't know is what I'm saying.
They won't.
I personally don't think they do. But what I'm saying is you don't know when another contender comes to hold. Like, what happens if the Houston Texans end up winning the division? They get a 3 seed or a 4 seed, and now they're in
and they get bounced in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You don't know that. The way C.J. Stroud played against the Cincinnati Bengals, minus that weird interception, you don't know that. The Texans could be a team that you'd watch out for to make the AFC Championship game. Not saying they win, but I can't write in Baltimore. Baltimore's not that impressive to me.
Baltimore's been the best team in the NFL this year.
They blew the game to Cleveland, and if you look at last
Baltimore,
night,
the only person that has beat Baltimore this season has been Baltimore.
Yeah. Well, let's look at it this way. Last night they got incredibly lucky. Lamar Jackson made a horrible pass that was tipped off Logan Wilson's hand that hits Nelson Aguilar in stride over his head for a touchdown. And then the refs had 2 huge third downs on bad penalties that gave the Ravens another touchdown. And Joe Burrow leaves that game. They're up 10-7 in the middle of the second quarter, and they're getting the ball back at half. So, like, you can't necessarily say that. I don't think Baltimore is as good as everybody thinks. They've had impressive wins. They clapped the Lions and they clapped Seattle at home this year. Those are impressive wins. I'll give it to them. But I don't buy Baltimore. I haven't seen it from Lamar Jackson in the playoffs since ever. And
he hasn't been in the playoffs in 3 years.
Yeah, but when he's been there, nothing is impressive.
Been there, he lost in the divisional round.
Yeah, and they haven't played well. Like, they had a putrid game against Buffalo last time they were there.
They lost. Lamar Jackson got concussed in that game. I believe Baltimore had to lead when Jackson got concussed.
I don't remember, but I do remember his final stat line was far from impressive, and they scored. Would they score maybe 10 points?
He got a concussion in that game.
We'd have to go back on that one.
I remember I was watching it in a hotel room in Central Islip, across the street from what's that rundown joint in Long Island? Nassau Coliseum, yeah.
But the point is, Corey, I don't know if I can write. I can't write in Baltimore right now.
But you couldn't write in Cincinnati.
I'm not saying you wrote them in. You take away a shot. Like, I personally thought Cincinnati was going to get it together. That's just my opinion.
Everybody thought that, but Cincinnati don't run the football and they don't stop the run.
But the funny part is they were running the football really well last night.
They were.
They didn't run it enough. But what I'm saying is you can't write in Baltimore. Like, I don't even know if you could write in Kansas City this year. I mean, chances are they'll probably at least get there. But, the AFC is now a little bit more open than I think people think, because you have some of these dark horses. Like, God forbid Jacksonville gets it together. You don't know.
Jacksonville is not going to the AFC Championship game. Jacksonville can't even win at home.
You don't know that, bro. Things happen. It's weird. It's the NFL. What it takes a good team to not show up one Sunday, the wrong day. That's what the NFL is.
That is true, and that's why we love it. Let's get ready to get into this week, and let's start down in Miami. Dolphins laying 13.5 versus the Raiders. Miami's been legit, I believe, 4-0 ATS at home this season. The Raiders have been terrible on the road. The problem, Johnny, is this is a different Raider team. I feel like the Raiders are more connected when Antonio Pierce is the head coach. So I can't handicap this Raider team the way you handicapped the Raiders earlier this season. So it's a no-go for me as far as a bet, obviously. So if I had to, I would take the points with the Raiders.
Yeah, I wouldn't. And I know the line has come down a little bit to 12.5, but for me, Miami has been great against the bad teams. They've been great with the big spreads, and I see no reason to fade that trend once again. They lost what ended up being a nail biter in Germany to Kansas City. Then they had a bye. They're refreshed. Everybody should be back and ready to go. Devin Atchain should be coming back this week, I think. And, the Raiders – I will admit they look better under Antonio Pierce, but they played the Giants and they played the Jets.
True. But they still look more connected.
They do. No, for sure. 100%. But are they going to be able to take advantage of the weaknesses of the Miami defense? I don't know.
Defense is starting to play real good, too.
They're coming together. Like, the Miami defense overall isn't good to this point.
When we get to the playoffs, don't be surprised if the Miami Dolphins defense is better than their offense.
Well, so you're leading me
into
that.
There
yeah. We're seeing the Dolphins start to come together on defense with Jalen Ramsey coming back. They're not there yet, but they might be getting there. I just don't know if the Raiders are going to be able to, thwart anything that Miami throws at them, because at the end of the day, they're still the Raiders. They're still starting a rookie quarterback. Davante Adams, they finally made a priority to get him the ball. Maybe if the Raiders run the ball 30 times, Josh Jacobs gets 25 carries, they'll have a shot. But who's going to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? I don't see it. I feel like the Dolphins put up a 30 being at home, and I don't know if I see Vegas putting up more than 17. That's my opinion. I'm going to go a classic lay the big spot.
Not to cut you off, Johnny. All right, classic lay the big spot. We'll leave that there. We'll table that. I know how we're going to do this. Right, because I something just hit me, and I want to have the conversation with it. So let's go to Jacksonville. Let's go to Jacksonville right now. Jacksonville's a 7-point home favorite versus the Tennessee Titans this week. Division matchup, you know what I'm saying? This is a division dog spot for me. I do not like Jacksonville at home. I think Tennessee keeps the game close, but I think Jacksonville controls and wins the football game. Now, earlier, before we got on air, you were talking about you got a Survivor entry.
Careful where you're going with this.
I wanted to talk about intrinsic value.
Okay.
Right? So let's talk intrinsic value. When you get down to a certain spot in Survivor, and you know how many is left, and you know what the prize is, can't you do the math to get the intrinsic value of your entry?
Well, so the basic value becomes how many entries started with versus how many are left. That's
exactly.
Division. So, but it's funny because I was talking about this earlier, not on the podcast, but that's just the basic what it goes for to be at this stage in the game in this contest. Then it becomes who do you have left? What are the teams? Because like some people might have burned the good teams. Like if you didn't save Detroit or Dallas or San Francisco for Thanksgiving, you're in trouble because you have to make a pick Thanksgiving or Black Friday. If you didn't save Philadelphia or Kansas City for Christmas, you're in trouble. So it's not just being in this position to be available, but it's who do you have? If you have garbage teams left and you're trying to pull off a miracle every week, then that entry's not worth as much as, okay, well, this guy's got Detroit left. This guy's got San Francisco left. He's got Miami left. He's got Kansas City left. He's got Philly left. He's got Dallas left. Like he's pulled off this miraculous run through 10 weeks with a lot of these average or below average teams somehow, some way. So that's really where the value is going to come into play. And value is based off what somebody is willing to pay for it.
Exactly, 100%. But you can get the real feel. But I didn't take into consideration the real feel number has to tie into what you have left. So that's a good point right there. So let's table that discussion. Let's get to the game. Jacksonville Jaguars. So would you like them to minus the 7 too?
I wouldn't take the spread. It's a divisional game. Tennessee has historically played Jacksonville well. Derrick Henry, this is one of the teams he beats up on. I think he's got 400 or 500-yard games in his last 6 contests against the Jaguars. I know this isn't the same Derrick Henry as years past, but he's still the king. And now we're starting to get into the cold weather games. This is historically where the king has thrived. And Jacksonville, the reason why I think Jacksonville in some capacity is live to not only win the game but cover the spread is because they just got clapped by 30 at home against San Francisco. If you're the Jags and you're a contender and you have expectations to make a deep postseason run, this is a game you have to win. And you have to win convincingly. Because guess what? You have not locked up the division. There's a team in Houston that's right behind you. So if you make a mistake and the Texans keep rolling, then you might even find yourself outside of the playoff picture. The Jags are in no way, shape, or form able to be comfortable right now. So with that being said, I do think they win the game. But being how it's a divisional game, and this is a sizable spread, it's a 7-point spread, I think Tennessee's going to keep it close. But I think this probably ends up staying inside. I would say Jackson wins by 6 points.
Okay. All right. I can dig that. And as far as myself, it's just no play on this game for me. If it was, it'd be Tennessee plus the 7. I do not like Jacksonville at home, not in the regular season. Now, you get into the postseason, that could be a little bit different down there in Duval County. I think that can give them a bump. But as a regular season game, I do not like it. Let's go back up to the top of the board. There's a play that I'll be making this week. It's a no-doubter as soon as I saw it. And you're going to say, wow, this is a risky spot right here. New York Giants, Washington Commanders. I'll just tell you the numbers. Ron Rivera, 1-6 ATS versus the New York Giants. Ron Rivera, horrific as a home favorite. At his time in Washington, New York Giants, Tommy DeVito plus 8.5, taking that one to the window, JVTV.
See, I got to disagree with you here. Trends are just trends. That what a trend is what's happened over the course of X amount of time. But each and every game is unique. And the reason why I can't play the Giants is the simple fact that I got to go against my paisan. Tommy DeVito, he's from North Jersey. He grew up in the town next to me. Like the whole living at home at 25 thing, bro, I get it. It's only weird to people that aren't from New Jersey, aren't like Italians. Like Italian mothers don't let you leave. They don't want you to leave. They pretty much handcuff you to your room so you cannot leave the house. That's normal. And by the way, nobody made a big deal about it with Philip Lindsay when he was running for 1,000 yards.
I don't think it's an issue about his living situation. No.
But the problem is they haven't showed anything of a competent offense. They're not scoring, dude. Their defense is real. No doubt. They have a good defense. They were put in an impossible position in Dallas last week. That was a layup of the century, minus 17.5. But against Washington, like Sam Howell, I love what I'm seeing. They had
the last time they played Sam Howell, they sacked him 6 times. The Bears, this is the Commander team that lost by 20 to the Chicago Bears. And
I get it. On a Thursday, but Thursdays, weird things happen. I think this is a bounce back spot for Washington. This is a revenge game in the sense that they got embarrassed at the Giants last time, but that was with a Tyrod Taylor-led team. So I understand 8.5, 9.5 is a big number, but I'm going to lay it with the Commanders in my circa million. I'm not taking it to the window.
Really taking a risk, okay?
Because
Lane in your circa is taking it to the window.
Yes, well, in that regard, but in terms of my overall card,
got it.
The card that I put out, I'm probably not going to do this. I can't bet on the Giants until they show me why I need to bet on them.
I will look at the defense in the situation. That's where I'm at. The defense in the situation, Sam Howell, that the Giants' strength is their defense. Washington's weakness is their offensive line. We've seen Washington spit the bit at home. It's a giant spot for me. We our opinions differ on that one right there. Curious what. So how, high school football is very big down here in South Carolina. So there's a couple of big games tonight, but that's neither here nor there. Let's go back to the games that count. Dallas Cowboys, Carolina Panthers. This game right up the street from me this weekend. Dallas Cowboys laying 10.5 in Charlotte. Fantasy Executive was supposed to be there, but there's a reason why I cannot be there, but that'll get settled shortly. I know a guy. With that being said, Johnny, 10.5 with the Dallas Cowboys. Go right back to it. Go right back to Dallas laying a big number. Once Bryce Young turns the ball over once, the floodgates will open.
Yeah, I just, Carolina does not put out a semblance of a pro team at the moment. Bryce Young has a long way to go. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm serious.
It's true. It's true. Frank Reich going back to calling the plays this week, that's going to make a difference. Like Frank Reich is Bill fucking Walsh. Go ahead.
The Dallas Cowboys these layups that they have, they need to win and win convincingly to keep momentum going. The only problem I have is they have a short turnaround on Thanksgiving against a tough Washington team, where historically Dallas has not played that well on Thanksgiving,
especially against NFC teams.
Yes, NFC East teams.
Let me tell you something. Washington scares the bejesus out of me on Thanksgiving.
I agree. Me too. So that being said, that was the one concern I had, but I can't get caught up in that situation. No doubt. I'm going to lay the big here. I think Dallas 10.5 is not big enough. I think this should be more along the lines of 14.5. And if we're being honest, this will probably be a 14-point line if Dallas was at home against Carolina. Give me the 10.5 on the road. I could see Dallas put up another 35 points and sit their starters in the fourth quarter again. That's really where this is trending. And for our guy, Micah Parsons, I don't even think he showed up on the stat sheet last week in a gigantic blowout win. So, if he wanted to get a couple sacks and pick up some numbers to, improve his stock in the Defensive Player of the Year race, it would be a good time against Bryce Young.
All right, and you go right there, and you're right. And I also mentioned earlier, it was a program I was on earlier on Player's Choice. I would not be surprised if Bryce Young, I hate to say this, knock on wood for that young man, but I would not be surprised if he does not finish this game. Frank Reich has some terrible blocking schemes, and Dallas should be able to take full advantage of that. All right, Johnny. Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals. There's a magical number. There's a magical number lurking. It's sitting right there. It's not there yet, Johnny, but it's touched it at one point this week. Then it went back to 6. Then it came back down to 5.5. I saw it drop to 4.5 at one point. Then I creeped back up, went through the 5 again, sitting at 6 right now on ESPN Bet, everybody's new favorite app. Johnny V, are the Arizona Cardinals getting ready to go into Houston and upset the Houston Texans? Because my money is on the Arizona Cardinals +6 and Arizona Cardinals money line.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This was started at 4.5. Now it's up to 6. And we were talking about this off air. Last week, I mentioned I think the Bengals were the biggest trap spot, and Houston was getting the 5.5 on the road. And I thought the Texans had a really good shot to win the game outright, definitely cover the spread. Now the shoe's on the other foot. I think everybody's riding high on Houston after a big win. They still think Arizona, even with Kyler Murray, isn't good. They're not competitive, and everybody's going to ride Houston. We've seen a 1.5 to 2 points coming in on Houston in the last 24 hours. And what that tells me is a lot of people are drinking the Kool-Aid on the Texans. And this is still the same team that lost to Carolina coming off a bye week. So my theory is the books have not correctly priced the Cardinals with Kyler Murray back in the lineup. And Murray looked good. First time playing in a year against a competent defense of Atlanta. First time I said that in a decade. And he looked good. He got the job done. So
first time you've said that ever, probably, to Kyler Murray.
yeah, probably. So I really think the Arizona Cardinals are alive in this one. I wouldn't touch Houston on the money line. I wouldn't touch him at -6. I wouldn't put him in a parlay. I wouldn't put him in a teaser. I think Arizona is going to shock a lot of people. This is going to be the biggest upset of the week, but give me the 5.5. Give me the 6. I feel like Kyler Murray is going to make a lot of noise in this one, and Houston is going to be on upset alert for sure.
I don't have no issues with that one right there. We are in unison with that play right there. Let me go back right here. I had to switch off to a little bit. That game has been done. Let's go Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns laying 1.5 versus the Steelers in this spot right here. Obviously, DTR gets the start this week. Kenny Pickett and the backups go on the road. Mike Tomlin leading that charge right there. Johnny V, I'm not betting this game.
Me neither.
If I had to, I would take the 1.5 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not touching this game either way, but, for whatever we think about Kenny Pickett, Steelers have their starting quarterback. The Browns don't. The defenses are, I would give the defensive edge to Cleveland, but the Steelers' defense is still pretty good overall, even though they really weren't great against the Packers last week, especially on third down. But nevertheless, I would side with the Steelers, but I'm not putting anything out there for this game. I can't do it.
So let's move ahead. Chargers, Packers. Once again, no play for the fantasy executive on this one. Chargers laying 3 on the road. Packers cashing it at home. Packers 3-6 on the season. Chargers 4-5. Chargers need some wins. They got a chance now with Burrow out. They got a chance to get back into the AFC playoff hunt. I'm never putting my money on the Las Vegas on whoever they are, whatever city they play in. Guess what? They're not going to have the fantasy executive money backing them.
Yeah, I'm not touching this game either because let me tell you why. The Chargers at home, I might have taken this game, but they're going to go into Lambeau Field. It's cold. The Chargers, they're traveling east to the Midwest, whatever. And Green Bay, while they're not a good team, they're still a team that I think has enough weapons, especially if they get Jair Alexander back on the defensive side of the ball, that they're going to be able to slow down the Chargers offense. And if the Chargers aren't scoring, they don't have a chance. So for me, I probably wouldn't play this game at all just because I don't like betting against the Chargers in certain situations, but I really don't like betting the Packers.
All right, here we go. Next spot that we go to, JVTV. Let's head to Detroit. The Lions 7-2. You already know they are an ATS wagon. If you want to come back the other way with the division rival, the Chicago Bears, you get the hook at 7.5. Johnny, I am not getting in front of the Detroit Lions later 7.5 with the big bad Lions.
Yeah, they're an ATS wagon. It is a divisional game, but the Lions have played so well, and Justin Fields is going to be back for this one, but it's a thumb injury. You don't know what he looks like throwing the ball. Like, this guy already has problems throwing the ball. It's not like he's Patrick Mahomes out there. This is a guy who's a work in progress as a passer. And, the one thing is the only way they're going to have a shot is if he uses his legs and he runs like Justin Fields ran last year. So I'm not going to bank on that. I like what Detroit's doing here, and I think they get a 10 to 13 point win at home against a Bears team that's searching for answers.
All right, let's get to the 4:05 p.m. Eastern time starts as we wind through this schedule. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. 49ers get back on track last week and immediately are asked to lay 12 points at home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay 4-5, still in the hunt in the NFC South. Give me the 12 with the Buccaneers. I don't think the 49ers blow them out, but I think the 49ers control and win the game. But Tampa will cover the spread. You like the big?
Lay the big, Corey.
Lay the big.
11.5. 49ers back on track.
Explain why.
Do you remember what happened when these two teams played in San Francisco last year? Do you remember the matchup last year with Tom Brady under center? Now we're trading Tom Brady for Baker Mayfield. San Francisco murdered them. They crushed their will to live. This is the same 49ers team that it was last year. I think McCaffrey, this is the kind of game I want to see him repeat what he did last year against them. 4 tutties, over 150 scrimmage yards, flip the script, get himself right in that MVP conversation like he deserves to be this year, because this is another kind of game where San Francisco, after coming off a 3-game skid, hits the bye, hits the reset button, then they go take Jacksonville, bend them over a barrel, and show them the 50 states. Excuse me. Hold on one second. Sorry about that.
Johnny VTV has attended some business right there. Hopefully,
that is my reminder to set my circa picks. Actually,
okay, very good. So that has nothing to do with a woman, but go ahead.
San Francisco, to me, really responded well off the bye. They went into Jacksonville against a team that's a playoff team, or should be a playoff team, and they beat them by 31 points. So I feel like San Francisco is going to start finding their groove again. This is one where they need to win, and they need to win convincingly. I feel like they win by 17 points because they are a much better team. And let me tell you something. If the Niners build a lead and force the Bucs to start throwing and coming back, then it's going to get ugly, because they're not built to do that. And Baker Mayfield is prone to making mistakes. And once they start playing from behind, the floodgates are going to open like Dallas, Carolina. And I feel like the Niners are going to be able to run it up on them. But let's go Christian McCaffrey, all the props.
All right, Christian McCaffrey is doing very well this year. Offensive Player of the Year is in his grasp. New York Jets, Buffalo Bills. Bills laying 7, juice to -115. Look like it could go up to 7.5. Everybody is going to be on the Jets. Normally, I would take the Jets in this spot, but this is too much love for a dog for me, so no bet.
I need to see. I don't have a pick yet. This is something I would wait till Sunday afternoon. I want to see where this line closes at. If we're able to get a Jets 7.5, maybe even an 8, because we do see point to point and a half movement in the 2 hours or so leading up to kickoff, I would probably take the Jets. And here's why I think that. I feel like everybody –
Buffalo ain't shit?
Well, I feel here's why. I feel like everybody is thinking, well, Buffalo, they lost again. They need the win. They're at home. This is to stay in the divisional hunt for their division and for the playoff hunt. They need this win. They need to have a big performance. I feel like I see a lot of people saying that. Like, the Jets haven't really shown enough to where, like, okay, the Jets are going to go into Buffalo and win this game. I mean, historically, they do play well against the Bills. So based off the Josh Allen turnover carousel that's going on, I personally don't know if I see Buffalo scoring more than 20 points. And if that's the case,
the Jets can get to 20.
They don't have to get to 20. They just got to get to 14. I think they
just to win the game.
No, I'm not talking about to win the game. I'm talking about the spread.
Mm-hmm. Got it. My
so
bad.
If the Bills are at 20 points capped, I think the Jets could get to 14 points and stay within this number.
I agree. That's a good way to look at it right there. I cannot go against that right there. All right, let's get ready to move on so we can get you this good information. Then we can head on to our evenings. Seattle Seahawks, Los Angeles Rams. I mean, I think we're going to agree on this one. You know what I'm saying? Our boy. You know what I'm saying? Matthew Stafford. Excuse me. I almost got that mixed up. Big Daddy Stafford is back, and the Rams are playing the Seahawks. If you don't know this, the Rams own the Seahawks. This is an easy play to the Rams.
Yes, but I do have a little reservations on Stafford because he's dealing with a throwing. What did he have? A thumb injury too, or he had a finger injury as well. And you know, if he's not able to throw the ball effectively, we don't know what he's going to look like. They just said he's going to throw him out there. We're like, we don't know, but you know, giving the benefit of the doubt to Sean McVay, who doesn't deserve it because he always lies about his player injury reports. I think ordinarily in regular circumstances, the Rams is the play for me. Basically a pick 'em, but they're getting a point at home. If I had to pick, I would pick the Rams at home, saying Matthew Stafford is at least serviceable. Cooper Kupp, Puka, whichever mix of the running backs they use. Seattle to me is, I think the wheels are starting to not come
Geno
off.
Smith is not playing as well as he did last year.
No.
And it's not even close.
You could have made a case they should have lost to Cleveland. You made a case they should have lost to Arizona.
You also could have made a case they should have beat Cincinnati. So that can go either way.
Or they should have lost to Washington. I mean, you know, they've played a lot of close games lately that a couple things have gone their way. I don't know if that happens again.
Yeah.
The Rams, the Rams are the better team because of the quarterback. And if Stafford is right, I got to take the Rams.
All right, football night in America. Minnesota Vikings, Denver Broncos. Denver laying 2.5 at home. Don't look now, but the Broncos have fought themselves back into the AFC playoff race, particularly with this injury to Joe Burrow. But am I going to lay 2 with this team? Nah. Give me really the story of the month of November. Josh Dobbs and this Minnesota Vikings team that continue to get it done. Now the Vikings are a trendy dog this week. I don't like backing trendy underdogs, but I don't really go primetime favorites. And I'm never betting on the Broncos as a favorite.
Well, I would have to wait until Monday night to make a pick on it, or Sunday night to make a pick on this, because I want to see if Jefferson is definitely back. I need to see the injury report. I think Jettis is going to play, but we don't know if he's full snap count. He's going even if he is, he's going against an elite young corner and Patrick Surtain II.
No doubt.
So my thing here is, let's see where the line movement is pre-kickoff. Let's see what the injury reports are. But to that extent, I think I would lay it with Denver. Russell Wilson, historically, Monday night, that's been his bread and butter. Look what he did against Buffalo, man. Or Sunday night. This is Sunday night game. But
a primetime affair.
A primetime game. Historically, Russell Wilson, even in the Seattle days, was really good in primetime.
Unlike Kirk Cousins.
That's a different day. But, I hate backing Denver because I hate Russell Wilson. But right now, dude, the way this defense is playing,
starting to come together.
They are starting to come together. They were playing so bad to start the year that I'm like, what is going on? This is not the defense we expected. Now they're starting to come together to be the defense that we thought they should be. They're still getting gashed in the run. So I would say whoever's starting running back for the Vikings should have a good game, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Tentatively, give me the Denver Broncos inside a field goal at home. Tentatively.
All right, there you go right there. All right, that's my man, Johnny V. I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Go ahead, JB.
I have one outstanding point. One thing that I brought up on Twitter this week, and I've been talking about it, and it's moved as a result. And it pertains to this game. Defensive Player of the Year, Corey. I got Danielle Hunter at 65-1, which I thought was not a bad number. 65-1 for a guy who is tied for the league in sacks with Myles Garrett. He leads the league in tackles for loss. Yes, he's played 10 games. He hasn't had his bye yet. And at the end of the day, that doesn't matter, because if they all play 17 games, everything is equal. But regardless of whether he wins or not, 65-1 is way too long, because this is a guy who realistically could end up with 18 sacks. And if he does that and is top of the board for tackles for loss on a team that might make the playoffs now, this guy should be 25-30-1.
But see, here's the thing. Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
He's still 50-1. That's too big of a number. And I'm not saying he definitely wins, but if he is 18 sacks or more and up there, up towards the league lead in tackles for loss by the end of the season, he's at least going to be in the conversation. I understand name-wise it's hard to trump the Garrett and the Parsons and the TJ Watt, but this is what future shopping is.
But here's the thing. I wish there was a way where if you bought that 65-1 on Hunter, right, and he closes at the end of the season at 2-1, I wish there was a way where you could get paid for that. Like, even if he doesn't win the award, the fact that something that started at 65-1 closed at 2-1, there should be a way you should be able to get rewarded for that.
So maybe one of these things, because they're finding new ways to add more betting and stuff in there, right? Maybe something in the future, hopefully in the near future, is you could bet on a guy to win an award, whatever that award is. And this goes for every sport. But you could bet on that guy to finish as a finalist in the voting. So there's three players to finish in voting. So it's like, okay, I like Danielle Hunter I'm going to take a ticket on him to win it. But you know what? Like, instead of 65-1 to win it or 50-1 to win it,
45-1 to be a finalist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people who just miss out on futures. Look at me, dude. I've hit so many futures in the last few years, but in the last 2 seasons, I've come so close to hitting futures that I didn't hit. I missed out on Dylan Cease and Cy Young last year.
I
He
knew
finished
you was
runner-up.
going to bring Dylan Cease up.
Well, that still hurts my heart because Blake Snell won the Cy Young pretty much doing the same thing Dylan Cease did in terms of the walk, strikeouts, and the ERA. But neither here nor there. I think that is something that could be in the near sight of the future. I mean, that would make sense. I would really like to see the markets for that, seeing who's going to finish as a finalist.
No doubt. All right, cool. Good stuff right there. You know what I'm saying? All right, so listen up. We get ready to chop it up. Get ready to get up out of here. Don't forget, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. For my man, Johnny V, Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive. Please remember to bet with your head and not over your head. Wager responsibly. And good luck this weekend. We out.